in the shade of the Qur'an, volume 30, by Sayyid Qutb, Surah 83, the Stinters, Surah Al-Mutaffifin.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ويل للمطففين الذين إذا اكتالوا على الناس يستوفون وإذا كالوهم أو وزنوهم يخسرون ألا يظن أولئك أنهم مبعوثون ليوم عظيم يوم يقوم الناس لرب العالمين كلا إن كتاب الفجار لفي سجين وما أدراك ما سجين كتاب مرقوم ويل يومئذ للمكذبين الذين يكذبون بيوم الدين وما يكذب به إلا كل معتد أثيم إذا تتلى عليه آياتنا قال أساطير الأولين كلا بل ران على قلوبهم ما كانوا يكسبون كلا إنهم عن ربهم يومئذ لمحجوبون ثم إنهم لصالو الجحيم ثم يقال هذا الذي كنتم به تكذبون كلا إن كتاب الأبرار لفي عليين وما أدراك ما عليون كتاب مرقوم يشهده المقربون إن الأبرار لفي نعيم على الأرائك ينظرون تعرف في وجوههم نضرة النعيم يسقون من رحيق مختوم ختامه مسك وفي ذلك فليتنافس المتنافسون ومزاجه من تسنيم عينا يشرب بها المقربون إن الذين أجرموا كانوا من الذين آمنوا يضحكون وإذا مروا بهم يتغامزون وإذا انقلبوا إلى أهلهم انقلبوا فكهين وإذا رأوهم قالوا إن هؤلاء لضالون وما أرسلوا عليهم حافظين حافظين فاليوم الذين آمنوا من الكفار يضحكون على الأرائك ينظرون هل ثوب الكفار ما كانوا يفعلون.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Woe to the Stinters, who, when others measure for them, exact and fool, but who, when they measure away for others, defraud them. Do such men not think that they will be raised to life on a great day? The day when all mankind shall stand before the Lord of all creation? No, indeed, the record of the transgressors is in Sijjin. Would that you know what Sijjin is? It is a sealed book. Woe on that day to the disbelievers who deny the day of judgment. None denies it but the guilty aggressors, the evildoers, who, when our revelations are recited to them, cry, fables of the ancient. No, indeed, their own deeds have cast a layer of rust over their hearts. No, indeed, on that day they shall be shut out from their Lord. They shall rose in hell, and a voice will say to them, this is the reality which you denied. But the record of righteous is in Illiyun. Would that you knew what Illiyun is? It is a sealed book, witnessed only by those who are closest to Allah. The righteous shall surely dwell in bliss. Reclining upon soft couches, they will look around them. In their faces they shall mark the glow of joy. They shall be given to drink of a pure drink, securely sealed. What a seal of musk, with a seal of musk. For this let the strivers emulously strive. It is a drink mixed with the waters of Tasneem, a fountain at which the favored will drink. The evildoers scoff at the faithful, and wink at one another as they pass by them. When they go back to their folk, they speak of them with jest, and when they see them, they say, these are erring men, yet they have not been assigned the mission of being their guardians. So on that day the faithful will mock the disbelievers. So they recline upon their couches and look around them. Shall not the disbelievers be rewarded according to their deeds? The surah describes the condition the Islamic call was facing in Mecca. Its other objective is to awaken the hearts of men and draw their attention to the new event which would cause the life of the Arabs and mankind in general to take a new turn. The event in question is the arrival of heaven's message to earth. The general state of affairs in Arabian society is portrayed at the outset as the surah threatens the Stinters with the woe which will befall them on the great day, the day when all mankind shall stand before the lords of all creation. The reason for such a threat is revealed at the end, when the surah gives a sketch of the manners of the evildoers, their attitudes towards the believers, their scoffing at them, winking to one another as they pass by, and their assertion that the believers are erring men. The surah may be divided into 4 parts. The first opens with a declaration of war against the Stinters. Woe to the Stinters who, when others measure for them, exact and fool, but who, when they measure or weigh for others, defraud them. Do such men not think that they will be raised to life on a great day? the day when all mankind shall stand before the Lord of all creation. The second part warns the transgressors and denounces them in strong terms. It threatens them with woe and ruins and establishes their guilt and aggression. It explains the reason for their blindness and describes the punishment of the day of judgment. No, indeed, the record of the transgressors is in Sijjin. Would that you knew what Sijjin is? It is a sealed book. Woe on that day to the disbelievers who deny the day of judgment. None denies it but the guilty aggressors, the evildoers, who, whenever revelation are recited to them, cry, "Fables of the ancient." No, indeed, their own deeds have cast a layer of rust over their hearts. No, indeed, on that day they shall be shut out from their hearts. No, indeed, on that day they shall be shut out from their Lord. They shall roast in hell, and a voice will say to them, "This is the reality which you denied." The third part gives an account of the righteous. It describes their high rank, the bliss they will enjoy, the delight showing in their faces, and the pure drink they will have while they recline on their soft couches and look around them. It is a delightful image of happiness. But the record of the righteous is in Illiyun. Would that you knew what Illiyun is? It is a sealed book, witnessed only by those who are closest to Allah. The righteous shall surely dwell in bliss. Reclining upon soft couches, they will look around them. In their faces, you shall mark the glow of joy. They shall be given to drink of a pure drink, securely sealed with the seal of musk. For this let the strivers emulously strive. It is a drink mixed with the waters of Tasneem, a fountain at which the favored will drink. The last part of the surah describes what the transgressors mete out to the righteous in this world of conceit and hollow vanity, harsh treatment, ridicule, and bad manners. Juxtaposed are descriptions of the ultimate situation of each group, the transgressors and the righteous in the world of truth and immortality. The evildoers scoff at the faithful and wink at one another as they pass by them. When they go back to their folk, they speak of them with jest, and when they see them, they say, "These are erring men," yet they have not been assigned the mission of being their guardians. So on that day the faithful will mock the disbelievers as they recline upon their couches and look around them. Shall not the disbelievers be rewarded according to their deeds? The surah depicts a social environment and is also an account of the Islamic way of dealing with the world as it exists and with the human mind. It is what we shall attempt to explain as we consider the surah in detail. Woe to the Stinters, who, when others measure for them, exact in full, but who, when they measure away for others, defraud them. Do such men not think that they will be raised to life on a great day, the day when all mankind shall stand before the Lord of all creation? The surah opens with Allah's declaration of war against the Stinters. Woe to the Stinters. The Arabic term used for woe implies destruction and ruin. The implication is the same whether you consider this verse as a statement of a future eventuality or a curse. For a curse made by Allah has the same effect as that of a statement of what is going to happen. The next two verses explain the meaning of the Stinters or defrauders as intended in the surah. They are those who, when others measure for them, exact in full, but who, when they measure away for others, defraud them. They are those who want their merchandise complete and intact when they buy, but they do not give the right amount when they sell. The following three verses wonder at the defrauders who behave as if they will not have to account for what they gain in this life. Do such men not think that they will be raised to life on a great day, the day when all mankind shall stand before the Lord of all creation? The fact that the behavior of the defrauders is tackled in this manner in a Meccan revelation is very interesting. Meccan surah generally concentrate on the fundamentals, such as the assertion of the unity of Allah, the supremacy of His will, and His dominion over the universe and over mankind, and the assertion of the truth of revelation and prophethood, the truth of the day of judgment, the reckoning and the reward. The Meccan revelations also endeavor to form and develop the moral sense and relate it to the fundamentals of faith. The tackling of a specific issue of morality, such as the Stinters or weights and measures, or business dealing in general, is a later concern. It is characteristic of Medinan revelation, which regulates the life of the community in an Islamic state. The fact that this Meccan surah makes the issue of stinting its focal point therefore deserve to be considered carefully. The first point to note is that in Mecca, the nobility were very rich, were unscrupulous, and exercised complete monopoly of trade in their business concerns. They organized the export and import trade using caravans which traveled to Yemen in winter and to Syria in summer. They had their seasonal trade fairs such as the Okaz fairs, which was held in the pilgrimage season. The fairs were for business dealing as well as literary activities. The text suggests that the defrauders against whom war was declared belonged to the nobility and wielded much power and influence, which enabled them to force others to succumb to their wishes. The Arabic expression connotes that for some unspecified reason they were able to impose their will and exact in full. The meaning implied is not that they exacted their full due, for this would not justify the declaration of war against them. What is meant is that they obtained by sheer force what they had no right to demand. But when it was their turn to weigh or measure for others, they exercised their powers by giving them less than their due. Indeed, this warning, coming so early in the Meccan period, gives an idea of the nature of the religion of Islam. It points out that Islam embraces all sides of life and aims to establish a firm moral code which accords with the basic principle of the divine teachings. At the time when this surah was revealed, the Muslim community was still weak. The followers of Islam has not yet won power in order to organize society and the life of the community according to Islamic principle. Yet Islam demonstrated its opposition to those acts of flagrant injustice and unethical dealings. It declared war against the Stinters and threatened them with war and destruction at a time when they were the powerful rulers of Mecca. It declared its uncompromising stand against the injustice suffered by the masses whom has never sought to lull into a state of lethargy and apathy, whom it has never sought to lull into a state of lethargy and apathy. This gives us an insight into the real motives behind the stubborn opposition to Islam by the masters of Mecca. They were undoubtedly keenly aware that what Muhammad, peace be on him, was calling was not merely a matter of personal conviction, which demanded no more than a verbal assertion of the unity of Allah and the prophethood of Muhammad, and a form of prayers addressed to Allah and not to idol. They realized that the new faith would establish a way of life which would cause the very basis of their position and interest to crumble. They were fully aware that the new religion, by its very nature, did not admit any partnership or compromise with any worldly concepts, alliance to its divine basis, and that it posed a mighty threat to all the base earthly values of ignorance. This is why they launched the offensive, which continued in full force both before and after the Muslim immigration. It is an offensive launched to defend their way of life in its entirety, not only a set of concepts which have no effect beyond individual acceptance and personal conviction. Those who attempt in any age or land to prevent it from organizing and ruling human life also realize this essential fact. They know very well that the pure and straightforward Islamic way of life endangers the unjust social order, interests, hollow structure, and deviant practices. Indeed, the tyrannical Stinters, whatever form their stinting takes and wherever it is, in money and finance or in the area of rights and duties, are those who fear most the ascendancy of Islam and the implementation of its just methods. The representative of the two Medinan tribes, the Aus and the Khazraj, who placed their support and loyalty to the Prophet, were also aware of all this. Ibn Ishaq, the Prophet's biographer, wrote, Asim ibn Umar ibn Qatada told me that when the Medinan Muslim came to give their pledge to the Prophet, Al-Abbas ibn Ubaidah al-Ansari, who belonged to the clan of Salim ibn Auf, addressed them and said, You Khazraj, do you know what your pledge to these men really mean? They answered, Yes, we do. The rejoinder was, You are pledging to fight the rest of mankind, white and black alike, so it would be better to leave him alone now if you think you will give him up to his enemies in the event of your sustaining material losses or losing your leaders. If you do such a thing, you will bring upon yourself great humiliation, both in this life and in the life hereafter. But if you feel that you will honor your pledges, despite any sacrifice in money or men, then go ahead, because this will be best for you here and in the hereafter. They said, We offer our loyalty and support and declare our readiness to sustain any sacrifice, material or personal. Turning to the Prophet, they asked him, What will be our reward if we honor our pledges? He said, Heaven. They said, Give us your hand. He did, and they gave him their pledges of support. Their supporters, like the Meccan tyrants, were keenly aware of the nature of Islam. They realized that it stands for absolute justice and fairness in the social order it seeks to create. It accepts no tyranny, oppression, conceit, injustice, or exploitation. Hence, it faces the combined forces of all forms of despotism, arrogance, and exploitation. Do such men not think that they will be raised to life on a great day, the day when all mankind shall stand before the Lord of all creation? The attitude is singularly strange. The mere idea of being raised to life again on that great day when all mankind shall stand as ordinary individuals in front of the Lord of the universe, awaiting his just judgment without support from any quarter, should be enough to make them change course. But they persist as if the thought of being raised to life after death has never crossed their mind. They are called Stinters, the first part of the surah. In the second, they are described as transgressors. The surah proceeds to describe the standing of this group with Allah, the situation in this life, and what awaits them on the great day. No, indeed, the record of the transgressors is in Sijjin. Would that you knew what Sijjin is? It is a seal book. Woe on that day to the disbelievers who deny the day of judgment. None denies it but the guilty aggressors, the evildoers, who, when our revelations are recited to them, cry, Fables of the ancient! No, indeed, their own deeds have cast a layer of rust over their hearts. No, indeed, on that day they shall be shut out from their Lord. They shall roast in hell, and a voice will say to them, This is the reality which you deny. They think they will not be raised to life after death. So the Quran rebukes them and affirms that a record of their action is kept. The location of the record is specified as an additional confirmation of the fact, albeit a location unknown to men. They are threatened with woe and ruin on that day when their sealed book shall be reviewed. No, indeed, the record of the transgressors is in Sijjin. Would that you knew what Sijjin is? It is a sealed book. Woe on that day to the disbelievers. The transgressors, as the Arabic term here connotes, are those who indulge excessively in sin. Their book is a record of their deed. We do not know the nature of this book, and we are not required to know. The whole matter belongs, in point of fact, to the realm of which we know nothing except what we are told by Allah, the Lord of that realm. The statement that there is a record in Sijjin of the transgressor's deeds is followed by the familiar Quranic forms of expression associated with connotation of greatness. Would that you knew what Sijjin is? Thus the addressee is made to feel that the whole matter is too great for his complete understanding. The surah then gives further description of the transgressor's record. It is a sealed book. There is no possibility of addition or omission until it is thrown upon on that great day. When this takes place, woe on that day to the disbelievers. Then we are given information about the subject of disbelief and the true character of the disbelievers. Who denies the day of judgment? None denies it but the guilty aggressors, the evildoers, who, when our revelation are recited to them, cry, "Fables of the ancient." So aggression and bad deeds lead the perpetrators to deny the day of judgment and to take a rude and ill-mannered attitude towards the Quran, describing it as fables of the ancients. This description by the disbelievers is of course based on the fact that the Quran contains some historical accounts of former nations. These accounts are related as a lesson for later generation as they demonstrate with much clarity the workings of the divine rules to which all nations and generations are subject. They are strongly rebuked and reprobated for their rudeness and disbelief. This connotation carried by the Arabic term kalla, translated here as no indeed, are coupled with an assertion that their allegations are unfounded. We are then given an insight into the motives of their insolence and disbelief and the reason for their inability to see the obvious truth or respond to it. Their own deeds have cast a layer of rust over their hearts. Indeed, the hearts of those who indulge in sin become dull, as if they are veiled with a thick curtain which keeps them in total darkness, unable to see the light. Thus, they gradually lose their sensitivity and become lifeless. It has been transmitted by Ibn Jarir, At-Tirmizi and An-Nasi'i and Ibn Majah that the Prophet said, when a man commits a sin, it throws a black spot over his heart. If he repents, his heart is polished. But if he persists in his practice, the stains increase. At-Tirmizi described this tradition of the Prophet as authentic. An-Nasi'i's version differs in the wording but not in import. His version may be translated as follows. When a man commits a sin, a black spot is formed on his heart. If he decease, prays for forgiveness and repent, his heart will be polished. But if he persists, the spot grows bigger until it has covered his whole heart. This is what Allah refers to when He says, "No, indeed, their own deeds have cast a layer of rust over their hearts." Explaining this verse, Imam Al-Hasan Al-Basri said, "It is a case of one sin on top of another until the heart is blinded and dies." Thus, we have learned the situation of the transgressing disbelievers, as well as their motive for transgression and disbelief. Then we are told what will happen to them on that great day, a day of destiny which befits their evil deeds and denial of the truth. No, indeed, on that day they shall be shut out from their Lord. They shall roast in hell, and a voice will say to them, this is the reality which you denied. Because their sins have cast a thick veil over their hearts, they are unable in this life to feel the presence of Allah, and it is only appropriate that they will not be allowed to see His glorious face. They will be deprived of this great happiness, which is bestowed only on those whose hearts and souls are so clean and transparent that they deserve to be with their Lord, without any form of separation or isolation. Such people are described in Surah 75, the resurrection. On that day they shall be joyous faces looking toward their Lord. This separation from their Lord is the greatest and most agonizing punishment and deprivation. It is a miserable end of a man whose very humanity is derived from only one source, namely his contact with Allah, his benevolent Lord. When man is torn away from this source of nobleness, he loses all his qualities as a human being and sinks to a level which makes him deserve to be thrown in hell. They shall roast in hell. On top of that, there is nothing much worse and much more agonizing, namely rebuke, and a voice will say to them, this is the reality which you denied. Then follows an account of the other group, the righteous. This is given in the customary Quranic manner of providing two elaborately contrasting images so that a detailed comparison may be drawn. But the record of the righteous is in Illiyun. Would that you knew what Illiyun is? It is a sealed book, witnessed only by those who are closest to Allah. The righteous shall surely dwell in bliss. Reclining upon soft couches, they will look around them. In their faces you shall mark the glow of joy. They shall be given to drink of a pure drink, securely sealed with the seal of musk. For this let the strivers humorously strive. It is a drink mixed with the waters of Tasneem, a fountain at which the favored will drink. This section of the surah starts with the Arabic term kalla, which connotes strong reproach and a firm command to the transgressors to desist from the denial of the truth. It then proceeds to speak about the righteous. Since the record of the transgressors is in Sijin, that of the righteous is in Illiyun. The term righteous refers to the obedient who do good. They are the exact opposite of the transgressors, who indulge in every excesses. The name Illiyun connotes elevation and sublimity, which suggests that Sijin is associated with baseness and ignominy. The name is followed by the form of exclamation often used in the Quran to cast shades of mystery and grandeur. Would that you knew what Illiyun is? The surah then states that the record of the righteous is a sealed book, witnessed only by those who are closest to Allah. We have already stated what is meant by a sealed book. We are told here that the angels closest to Allah do see this book and witness it. This statement gives the feeling that the record of the righteous is associated with nobility, purity, and sublimity. The angels closest to Allah look at it and enjoy its description of noble deeds and glorious characteristic. The whole image is provided as an evidence of the honor and the righteous receive. There follows an account of the situation in which the righteous find themselves. We are told of the bliss they enjoy on that great day. The righteous shall surely dwell in bliss. This contrasts with hell, in which the transgressors dwell. Reclining upon soft couches, they will look around them. This means that they are given a place of honor. They look wherever they wish. They don't have to look down out of humility, and they suffer nothing which distract their attention. In their bliss, the righteous live in mental and physical comfort. Their faces are radiant with unmistakable joy. In their faces you shall mark the glow of joy. They shall be given to drink of a pure drink, securely sealed with the seal of musk. Their drink is absolutely pure without any unwanted addition or particles of dust. Describing it as securely sealed with musk indicate perhaps that it is ready-made in secured containers to be opened when the drink is needed. All this adds to the impression of the meticulous care being taken. The fact that the seal is of musk adds an element of elegance and luxury. The whole picture, however, is understood only within the limits of human experience in this world. In the hereafter, people will have different concepts, tastes, and standards which will be free from all the bounds of this limited world. The description is carried further in the following two verses. It is a drink mixed with the waters of Tasneem, a fountain at which the favored will drink. So this pure, securely sealed drink is opened and mixed with the measure of the water of a fountain called Tasneem, and described as the one from which the favored drink. Before this last part of the description is given, we have a highly significant instruction. For this, let the strivers earnestly strive. Those Stinters who defraud their fellow men pay no regard to the day of judgment, and worse still, deny that such a day of reckoning will come. Hardened by their sins and excesses, they strive endlessly for the petty riches of this world. Each of them tries to outdo the others and gain as much as possible. Hence, he indulges in all types of injustice and vice for the sake of ephemeral luxuries which shall never be an object of competition. It is the other types of luxury and honor which deserve emulous striving. For these, let the strivers emulously strive. Those who strive for an object of this world, no matter how superb, grand, or honorable it is, are in reality striving for something hollow, cheap, and temporary. This world, in its totality, is not worth, in Allah's view, one mosquito's wing. It is the hereafter which carries real weight with him. So it should be the goal for strenuous competition and zealous striving. It is remarkable that striving for the hereafter elevates the souls of the strivers, while competition for worldly objects sinks their soul in low depths. As man works continuously to achieve the happiness of the hereafter, his work makes this world a happy and pure one for everybody. On the other hand, efforts made for the achievement of worldly ends turn this world into a filthy marsh, where animals devour one another and insect bite the flesh of the righteous. Striving for the hereafter does not turn the earth into a barren desert, as some transgressors imagine. Islam considers this world a farm, and the hereafter its fruits. It defines the role of the true believers as the building of this world while following the path of piety and righteousness. Islam stipulates that man must look at his task as an act of worship which fulfills the purpose of his existence as defined by Allah. I created mankind and the jinn so that they worship me. The statement, for this let the strivers emulously strive, inspires man to look far beyond this finite little world as he sets out to fulfill his mission as Allah's vice-agent on earth. Thus, as they work on purifying the filthy marsh of this world, their souls are elevated to new heights. Man's life on earth is limited, while his future life is of limitless duration. The luxuries of this world are only limited, while the happiness of paradise is much too great for us to conceive. The element of happiness in this life are well known to everyone, but in the next world they are on level befitting a life which is everlasting. What comparison can then hold between the two spheres of competition of the two goals, even when we apply the human methods of balancing losses against profit. It is indeed one race and a single competition. For these, let the strivers humorously strive. The beatitude enjoyed by the righteous is discussed at length in order to give a detailed account of the hardships, humiliations, and insolence they are made to suffer by the transgressors. The final comment of the surah counts the disbelievers as they behold the righteous enjoying their heavenly bliss. The evildoers used to deride the faithful and wink at one another as they pass by them. When they go back to their own folk, they would speak of them with jest, and when they see them, they would say, "These are certainly erring men," yet they have not been assigned the mission of being their guardians. So on that day, the faithful will mock the disbelievers as they recline upon their couches and look around them. Shall not the disbelievers be rewarded according to their deeds? The images portrayed by the Qur'an of the evildoers, the derision of the faithful, their rudeness and insolence, and the description of the faithful as erring men are taken directly from the real life of Mecca at that time. But the same actions happens over and over again in all ages and places. People in our own age, have witnessed similar action, as though this surah was revealed to describe what these contemporary people have seen with their own eyes. This proves that the attitude of transgressors and the evildoers to the believers hardly ever change from one country to another or from one period of time to another. The evildoers used to deride the faithful. Notice here the use of the term "used to." The surah takes us away from this world to the hereafter to see the righteous in their bliss, while we hear what used to happen to them in the world. The believers were made to suffer ridicule and derision by the transgressors, either because they were poor or weak, or because their self-respect would not allow them to return the abuse of the base evildoers. What a contrast of attitude! The evildoers persecute the believers and laugh at them shamelessly, while the believers stick to the attitude of dignified perseverance and self-respect, and wink at one another as they pass them. They wink at one another or make certain action intended as mockery and derision. Such behavior betrays their baseness and bad manners. They try to make the believers feel embarrassed and hurtful, and when they go back to their folk, they would speak of them with jest. When they have nourished their little evil mind with such mockery and injurious action aimed at the believers, they will go back to their folk to speak of them with jest. They feel satisfied with what they have done, although they have sunk to the lowest depth in their behaviors. They cannot imagine how contemptible they are. And when they see them, they would say, "These are certainly erring men." It's even more singular. Nothing is more absurd than those transgressors should speak about the right ways and the erring ways, or that they should say that the believers are erring. Transgression knows no limit. The transgressors never feel ashamed of what they do or say. Their description of the believers as erring men is a clear manifestation of this fact. The Quran does not try to defend the believers or refute this evil accusation leveled at them, because it is not worth refuting. It laughs loudly because at those who involve themselves impudently in something which does not concern them. Yet they have not been assigned the mission of being their guardians. No one has asked them to look after the believers, or to watch over them, or to assess the situation. So why do they give their unsolicited opinion? This sarcasm concludes the narration of what the transgressors do in this life. The surah relates it as if it is something of the past, and give an image of the present, that is, the hereafter, and when the believers rejoice in their heavenly bliss. So on that day the faithful will mock the disbelievers as they recline upon their couches and look around them. On that day the disbelievers are shut out from their Lord, suffering the isolation combined with the torture of hell when they are told, "This is the reality which you denied." At the other end, the believers recline on their couches in total beatitude, partaking of the pure drinks which are secured with the seal of musk and mixed with the waters of tasneem. As the surah gives the two images, it shows how the tables are turned, for then it is the believers who laugh at the disbelievers. The surah concludes with another loud, ironic question. Shall not the disbelievers be rewarded according to their deed? Your reward is not a good one, as the term used here connotes in ordinary usage. We have just been given an image of their doom, which is described here sarcastically as their reward. The scene of the evildoers' ridicule of the believers merits further discussion. It is portrayed in considerable detail in the same way as the earlier scene of the righteous in their heavenly bliss. The detailed description is highly artistic. It also has a marked psychological effect which is soothing. The Muslim minority in Mecca was facing a sustained, demoralizing onslaught by the polities, but Allah did not leave the Muslim on their own. He comforted them and urged them to persevere. They feel comforted by the very fact that their suffering as a result of the harsh treatment they receive from the polities are outlined by Allah in detail. He sees what the believers believe and does not ignore what he sees, although he may let the disbelievers do as they wish, only for a while. He also sees how the transgressors laugh unrepentantly at the suffering of the faithful. Since he described all this in the Qur'an, then he must take it into account. This in itself is enough consolation for the believers. There are also those ironic remarks about the evildoers. They may go unnoticed by the disbelievers because their indulgence in their sinful practices have made them insensitive. The highly sensitive hearts of the believers, however, are touched and comforted by them. It must be noted that the only consolation offered by Allah to the believers who are subjected to harsh treatment and painful ridicule was heaven for the believers and hell for the disbelievers. This again was the only promise the Prophet, peace be on him, made to the believers when they pledged their wealth and their lives for the cause of Islam. Victory in this life was never mentioned in the Meccan chapters of the Quran as a consolation or as an incentive to persevere. The Quran was cultivating the hearts of the believers and preparing them to fulfill the task with which they have been entrusted. It was necessary that this heart should attain a high standard of strength and self-denial, so that they would give everything and suffer all hardships without looking for anything in this life. They seek only the hereafter and to win the pleasures of Allah. They should be prepared to go through the whole journey of life, suffering all sorts of hardship and deprivation without the promise of any reward in this life, not even victory for the cause of Islam. Such a group of people must be first established. When this happens and Allah knows that they are sincere and determined in what they have pledged themselves to do, then He will give them victory in this life. Victory will not be theirs as a personal reward. They will be given power as trustees appointed for the implementation of the Islamic way of life. They will be worthy trustees because they will neither promise nor did they look for any such worldly gain. They pledged themselves truly for Allah at a time when they were unaware of any benefit that may befall them, except that they would win Allah's pleasure. All the Quranic verses which speak of victory were revealed later in Medina, when this was no longer an issue. Victory was given because Allah willed that successive human generation should have an actual, definite and practical example of the Islamic way of life. It was not a reward for sacrifice made or hardship suffered. Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahil aliyyil azim, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahil aliyyil azim, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahil aliyyil azim. Ya Fattah, Ya Razzaq, Ya Wahab, Ya Ghani, Ya Mughni, Ya Qadim, Ya Daim, Ya Ahad, Ya Wahid, Ya Samad, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Hayyu, Ya Qayyum, Ya Rabb, Ya Zal Jalali wal Ikram, Ya Rabb, Ya Zal Jalali wal Ikram, Ya